If you enjoyed today's video, please consider subscribing to the channel. When you do, make sure you hit the notification bell. That means that you will be informed of when a new video has been released. If you would like to take that support one step further, you can do that via Patreon, which is an optional monthly service. You can donate money towards the channel, or you can go over to Ko-fi.com, and for the price of a coffee you can help donate towards the channel as well. Links for all of those will be in the description of the video, and without further ado, enjoy the video.
Let's move on to what is currently going on. We've briefly talked about it with the current situation with football at the moment. It's very, very tricky to really understand how the potential season can finish and what's kind of going on at the moment. Obviously, for myself and Adam, we are heavily invested in non-league football, but we constantly refer to it on the show, don't we, Adam, with the fact that the Premier League and the EFL is still to make a decision on what is going on. For you as a player, how have you found that interim period from the day where they said, right, it's going to be postponed for the time being until, to where you're at the moment? How are you coping with that as things stand?
It's difficult because you get this type of break in the summer where you get 6-8 weeks off, but you have like an end goal, a date, something to work towards, like you know where your fitness needs to be at, where you can book holidays or you can do things with your family and things like that. But this has been so up in the air that you can't. At the start, we were all given a fitness plan to be like, right, these days I want you to do this, this, and this. But as time's gone on, we've had calls on the manager to say, I want you to chill off a little bit and just relax and not kind of be on it. And then you're a little bit in limbo of how much you need to do because there's no date still set for anything to happen. So, and until that happens, I don't think anyone can kind of really not have an opinion, but make any decisions. And it seems like the Premier League, the EFL, non-league are all different. They've all got their own kind of agendas probably of what they want to happen, but also clubs do. So there'd be 10 clubs in our league, for instance, who want something so that they can get promoted. There'll be 10 clubs who don't care that the season ends because they've got nothing to play for, and you've got the ones at the bottom who want it to be null and void so they survive. So it's really difficult to, whatever happens, I don't think you're going to please everyone. And I don't know. I think once the Premier League, make the decision on whether they can play, I think then it will filter down and see what happens. But I spoke to the manager today, and he called me and we spoke about it, but nothing. He's still up in limbo, doesn't know. We've got a player, Matt Bloomfield, who's on that elite board on the PFA now, that 6-member thing. And again, he's saying there's nothing's been decided anywhere. So it's difficult, really difficult situation.
Yeah, I mean, how often are you speaking to Gareth Ainsworth at the moment? Is it kind of like a weekly thing, or is it just a case of whenever you want to find out something, you just kind of pick up the phone and ask if there has been any update?
No, he calls every week. He makes a he makes a point of calling, I think, every player every week just to see how things are. It doesn't really. Today we had a chat about football, but normally it's just how you're getting on, what you've been up to, keep ticking over, and then we'll talk about something that's going on, or the missus or his family, and it's just to kind of keep in the loop. He's like that. He's when during the season he'll always be asking not just about football, but he wants to know how your family's doing, how your life is outside of football. So he's very good at that. And we speak a lot, and obviously the WhatsApp group with the boys is always going off, and they're doing some good things at Wycombe where they're every couple of days they're doing like a Wycombe Live thing where they get 5 or 6 of the players online and the fans can interact. So it keeps the boys talking to each other and keeps the fans interactive with the players. So I think that's gone down really well as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I think mentally that's probably really important, that it isn't every interaction you have with your manager is almost work. There's the social, and it's being treated like a human again, and making sure that football as a community is healthy as well as a sport. And hearing things like that are so positive because it takes away the whole thing, that it's just it shows us a more human side to it as well, rather than just the focus on getting back to playing, because we don't know when that is, and it might not be for some time. So it's important that people look after themselves mentally as well as physically. Again, you said sometimes you're being told just to have ease off, take a day off or whatever. That's really interesting to hear, and that's probably not what I was expecting. Like in my head, I was thinking that you'd probably be told to work as hard as you physically can and be in the absolute optimum shape, because people would be pretty confident that they want to get them last 10 games or so knocked out the park as quick as possible.
Yeah.
And you've got to be able to play 3 games a week if needed.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. He's very much like that. There's the only football thing we're doing is every day one player gets a video sent into our WhatsApp group of all his best clips from the season. So it's something that it makes him feel really good, big. The boys are all looking at it, giving him all the adulation that they deserve, and it's really nice to get you thinking. Again, speaking to the gaff today, he was like, I want to get all the boys like. Mentally, they're like buzzing about themselves. They haven't got any thoughts about what's gone on. It's just all they're seeing is positive stuff from them. So that when they come back, they're desperate to just get on the pitch and play football and enjoy it and have fun. And that's always what he prides himself on.
Yeah. Are you kind of going on touching on what Adam's saying there in terms of like the mental aspect of it? How are you finding not being actually in the changing room on a regular basis, not having the training on day in and day out? Has that been difficult, or have you kind of got used to it as the weeks have kind of gone on?
I think naturally you get more used to it. I think like a lot of the players who I speak to will say is they just miss going in and having that interaction with the other players, and you've got that dressing room banter and camaraderie that everyone's got, and you can't have that at home with your wife. It just doesn't work. So just seeing everyone, and that's why the WhatsApp group's so good. That most days there's debates going on, there's chats going on, nothing to do with football mainly, just to do with what's going on in the world. And we've got quite a few interesting characters who've got strong opinions on things, and it's good just to get everyone interacting and making sure no one kind of forgets and the whole squad gets involved. There's not one player who doesn't ever have their say, and it's pretty cool to have that environment.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to hear, because one of the things looking from an outside, I mean, I'm a Norwich fan, Adam is an Ipswich fan. We're both heavily invested in non-league football, but one of the things that Wycombe is known for is the team spirit and the closeness of the group. So it's very interesting to hear that is still going on outside of a training ground, and it's not just been, right, you're all on your own individual workouts, and that's it. There's no, and no outside communications. So it's really interesting to hear that side of things is still happening. But from a fitness perspective, let's kind of move on to that now. How are you kind of finding things at the moment from that? Let's just kind of talk very briefly on that. I know we said right at the beginning there was some plans put in place to begin with, but then that's kind of eased off now. How are you kind of doing stuff from home?
I'm spending money on Amazon on things that I never thought I would. That's one thing I'm doing. Somehow we've got a cupboard now with medicine, whatever going on that I just see something online. I'm like, that could help doing stuff. So I've got all this stuff. Right. And luckily my wife's quite into her fitness as well. So we do like home workouts together most days. She actually went out did a 5K at 7 o'clock this morning, but I wasn't getting involved with that. But luckily we've got a huge park next to us, so we go out running together, or I'll go and I've got a couple of balls with me. I'll go and take my boots down there, find a little patch, and kind of just do my own thing. It's difficult. Obviously, you prefer to be with people, but it's just one of those things. You know what you have to do. Kind of, a session to get so much distance into your legs that you need. Yeah. And you just kind of got to get on with it. There's no two ways about it, really. There's no point being at home. And in these times, it's quite nice to get out in the fresh air and see trees and see grass and see whatever. So it's exactly. And it's something that I hope that you go out and it seems like everyone's turned into a runner or a walker, but you kind of hope that carries on afterwards to keep everyone kind of fitter and healthier, and it helps with your mental state as well, just to kind of get out the house and focus on fitness for an hour or whatever it is. So it's good.
Adam, we really need to get on that, mate. Really do.
You think I'm going to run 5K? You got another thing coming?
I hate running, and you ask any of the players, and my distances in games are lower. I know it's positional wise, but I always say like the first 2K is up in your head, whereas I'll let the runners run and things like that. But for some reason, I've been enjoying going on runs. I've been doing 10Ks, 12Ks, just to kind of, don't know, just to get my mind on it. And it's made me probably fitter now doing all this that I wouldn't have necessarily thought.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about the current status of football at the moment. Again, we touched upon it. Non-league has been stopped. There's no, we've had the decision made. We have, certain clubs have sent in appeals to get that try and reinstated, but that has not been successful. From an outside looking in, from a non-league perspective, first of all, let's talk about that. What do you make of a decision to null and void the season? Do you think they've kind of made the right decision, or do you think they possibly should have waited to see, as you say, maybe what the Premier League decides and then take it from there?
Yeah, I think it's ridiculous that they made that decision. First of all, when they did it, it was so early on. Yeah. So they couldn't have known. They could have waited. Even if they made it now, I still think it's early. But I get that, non-league's a little bit different to the Football League with contracts and things like that. Yeah. For me, there has to be relegation and promotion. 75, 80% of the league's been done. I think there has to be. I think there's no one that could complain who looks at the league table now and looks at people down the bottom or people at the top and says they don't deserve to be there and they don't deserve to get relegated or promoted. So I know that's probably me having my selfish hat on because of the position that Wycombe are in at the minute. But I just think that it makes it worthwhile whatever's happened. You don't want to come out the end of this and go, well, that was all for nothing. You kind of want to go, right, we went through that and now we've got this to show for it. We managed to get this promotion. Yes, some people might be promoted not because they 100% deserve to be, but for every one of them, there's probably 10 clubs that do deserve to get promoted and probably should do because of it.
We've mentioned it before in here. There's 2 clubs in the country that have actually mathematically achieved promotion. One of them being Jersey Bulls, that they actually haven't lost all season, which is utterly, like, their record's insane. I think they've literally won every single game, and I don't understand how you can take that achievement away from a team when it's mathematically secured. There is no other option, like that they would have been going up.
Well, it's one of those that, if they make that decision for that league, you then have to make that decision for every league at non-league level. Every, whatever league that they're in, whatever status they're at, you then have to then say, right, everyone else at that level, those rules apply as well. And if you're then turning around and saying, well, actually, the leagues above, that can't happen, and the leagues below, that can't happen, it gets a bit tricky, doesn't it?
It's difficult because I think what's really, really clear is that they want to focus on next season being okay. Like that seems really clear, like from how early they've called it off and everything. But I find it really difficult. Like now I'm looking at other things. Like I think France today, Ligue 1 got void effectively. Like more and more leagues are starting to fall. How do we know when we're going to be okay to go ahead again? And I think that with that in mind, I think that the FA will probably have to look at a broader scale and maybe take note of what other organisations have done, and they'll see that like Italy can come through the other side of it. Like,
it's interesting because obviously I know certain leagues are saying, well, that's it. I mean, for example, Holland, they basically said it doesn't matter. There aren't going to be any relegations. There's not going to be any title deciders. That's it. The season's done. France have said the season's finished, but yet PSG have won the title. It's and yet we're still in a situation in this country where the Premier League and the EFL are undecided, and we're still sitting around and waiting for you as a player. That must be, well, how do you mentally cope with that? It must be very frustrating.
It's difficult, like you said, but for us, we've got a really added interest in it because if it's done on points per game, then we then go up to third. And then if there's 3 teams that get promoted, do we then become the third team? So there's loads of little things in it. There's obviously a lot of teams in the playoffs who want the season to continue because they wouldn't get promoted if it stops.
Yeah.
So it's, who makes this decision? I don't know. I don't know whether they can postpone it for a couple of months and come back and try and finish it again. But who's to say that next season is going to start on time, even if you null and void it now? So for me, I would say give this season as much time as possible, even if next season starts in October, November, and next season finishes a bit later. There's, as many years as you want in the future to kind of stagger that back a little bit. And again, there's plenty of midweeks. I know people complain about X number of games and don't want to overburn and things like that, but the whole world's going to be in the same situation. So it's not like one team or one country gets any beneficial from it that others won't. So I think try and play it as long as possible. I get the contract situation is a bit difficult and that needs to be sorted out. But surely there's enough money in football to sort out contracts for an extra month or two on a handful of players in the lower leagues.
I mean, one of the things that has been sort of suggested is that they are trying to look at the beginning of June, maybe like the 5th or 6th of June for a potential return date for the EFL. Have you heard anything about that? Do you know if those kind of rumours are true, or is that just kind of papers just trying to sell a date just to kind of appease fans?
Yeah, I don't think we've not heard that. I think there was a date that flew around a couple of weeks ago about the 16th of May. I think is still, that's the earliest if it does happen. And I think there's a big meeting next week with the government to decide, the next stages of the lockdown plans and things like that. Yeah. And if there's any leeway, I think a couple of clubs have already opened their training ground to let players go in and train. I don't know how that works, and behind closed doors, are they doing extra than what they should be doing? Who knows? But I think as soon as any club I think gets given the green light, they will do. And if they're allowing teams to train, surely they're allowing teams to train for a reason to get the season started. They must have something in their mind. If they don't, then I think there has to be a date where there must be a date where eventually they say either no or yes. But for me, they can't just null and void seasons everywhere. If they do it in leagues, in the Championship, Leagues 1, 2, and the Premiership gets awarded the title to Liverpool, who 100% deserve to win the Premier League, then they have to do the same. Whatever rule they set, they have to do the same throughout for me.
Yeah, definitely.
One of the things I was going to ask off the back of it is that, like, one of the things in non-league that's quite contentious is that clubs don't tend to hang on to players for overly long. So that when teams have had a really successful season, it's really important to those players, like that unit has all been successful together and they get their rewards getting the promotion. Like, you don't get loads of promotions in a career unless you are an incredible player that's a journeyman and can carry every single team to promotion each year. So, like, in your squad, do you think the sort of older, more experienced guys are sort of feeling it harder because there's less years where you're going to get that experience potentially as a promotion than the younger guys? They're out there and have got years ahead of themselves to really make their mark on football and keep doing it.
Yeah, a little bit. I've played one game in the Championship. That was my debut, 12, 14 years ago, whenever it was. So there's a few of us who've never played and are desperate to kind of get there. So for us, this might be our best ever opportunity that we're ever going to have to do. So for that to be taken away from us would be heartbreaking. But then again, when you have the points per game and someone offhanded it to you, then 100% you're going to snap their hands off it. You deserve, which is another story. But yeah, I think so. I think I think the older you get, the more you realise about how difficult it is to stay in the game, to keep playing the games. And there's always someone younger and fitter and quicker than you. It's difficult to kind of make sure you're on it the whole time. So I think if you're one of the younger boys, I think you might be a bit naive to think that it's fine. I'm in football. I'm going to be in it for years and years and years. But the reality is, even if this wasn't happening, I still think a lot of these players won't be in football or won't be in the same level we're at now, just because of how the game's going and the filter down from the Premier League.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's Joe's thoughts, and I'd love to hear what you guys have to say on this. And leave us down in the comment section what you make of it. How would you decide the season. Do you agree with null and void? Do you think it should be continued, or do you think maybe points per game is the right way to go about it? As I said, let us know down in the comment section.